Give me a thumbs up, then I'll say something. All right, welcome everyone to the Community Wildfire Protection Meeting for Lake Louise, Crosswind Lake, and the Tolsona Lake area. We're gonna wait just a couple minutes before we get started. If you are online, if you can let us know by entering your name, if you wish, in the chat box, maybe where you're from, or if you have property in this area, and we'll give you a chance to do that, and we'll be getting started shortly.
They said, oh, you won 5 million, but you gotta go to Anchorage Airport to get the package. They said.
Hey, Andrew. Oh, yeah, the blue light is on. That's good. So just checking.
And I'll take the rest. And we're all set. Oh, we can't do it like that. They said.
Just for the
Is it good? Is it looking good? Yeah. Okay. Andrew, can you tell if how many people are online?
yeah, 5.
5 people online?
And, yeah,
I'll bring him right over.
so we got Sarah Bolton on. She's just saying that she's from the Kinney Lake. She worked with the Copper Valley Development Association. She's just listening in.
Okay, cool. I couldn't actually hear you very well, but well, okay. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our meeting. We'll first start out with introductions. My name is Jenny Mosier. I work for the Division of Forestry. I work out of both the Toke and the Valdez Copper River area offices. I'm a firefighter in the summertime, and fire preparedness and prevention and education is something that I am very passionate about. Pass it off.
Good evening. I'm Nick Carter. I'm the Toke Valdez Copper River area forester, and I'm down here to just help with the meeting and answer any questions and support the effort that's going on down here.
I'm Vanessa with Otna Incorporated. I work in the land department.
And then she follows her son and
Kelly Smith, long-time Copper Basin resident. Here to learn more. Thanks.
Andrew Coulter. I'm a technician out of Copper River Forestry for 6 years. If you have any questions, most of we ask on the YouTube page. I'll be answering any questions as well as Mike Tripper if you have any questions.
All right, and we want to thank all the people who are attending online. As I mentioned before, as questions or comments come up, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and then we will be periodically addressing them, or at the end of the presentation, continue our discussion from there based off your input in the chat box. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties or live streaming difficulties, also please put that in the chat box so we're aware and we can take a step backwards and address it. I want to thank the Tolsona Lake Resort, Michelle and Bruce, for allowing us to host this meeting here. I also want to thank Copper River EMS for loaning us out the equipment to make the live streaming possible. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. The intent is, I have a slideshow prepared for you that is going to explain a little bit more about what is all involved in creating a community wildfire protection plan and the benefits that it can bring to our communities. A little bit about the Copper River Basin. The fire management area encompasses 21.5 million acres, and over 20 communities exist within our fire-dependent ecosystem that naturally burns. The Alaska Division of Forestry has statutory fire suppression responsibility through agreements with the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and that includes native allotments. The Copper River Area Division of Forestry relies on interagency partners and local volunteer fire departments to assist in providing protection and resources during the fire season. So what exactly is a community wildfire protection plan? Otherwise referred to as a CWPP, they are created in collaboration with emergency management, land management agencies, community organizations, and individual community member input that allows the community to be proactive in managing wildfire risk. The plan consists of an individualized community assessment that identifies values, risks, elements of community protection already in place, and an action plan of measures that can be taken to reduce the threat and impact of wildfires. Community wildfire protection plans empower the public to be proactive in wildfire prevention and protection. They identify needs that can be worked towards to achieve better wildfire preparedness. They improve collaboration and effectiveness of local fire suppression resources and the community. And once a community wildfire protection plan is in place, wildland-urban interface, otherwise known as WUI grants, can be obtained to meet the goals and the mitigation or action parts of the CWPP. So just to kind of sum that up a little bit, the CWPP is the outline or the plan of identified needs and potential actions that could take place, and then the actual actions happen after the CWPP is in place, and we can apply for further funding, such as, like, as I mentioned, WUI grants. Communities that are identified for a CWPP include Kenny Lake, the Willow Lake, and Upper Tonsina communities, Copper Center, including Clutacah and Silver Springs, Taslina, Lake Louise, including Crosswind Lake, also Tolsona Lake, and Slana, including Nebezna, Mendeltna, and Nelchina. And these are existing plans that will be updated this year: Kennecott, McCarthy, Glen Allen, Strelna, and Chipman. The proposed coverage area for this plan includes from mile 159 on the Glen Highway to 182, which is where the Lake Louise Road begins, Susitna, Tyone, Hobbs, and Loon Lake, and then also the Lake Louise area, the Crosswind Lake area, and corridor that goes to the highway, and then the Tolsona Lake area. Minimum requirements for a CWPP include collaboration with emergency management, land management entities, tribal entities, and community members. And I can't emphasize enough that input from community members is going to be one of the things that will help make the CWPP successful. Another minimum requirement is prioritizing areas for fuel reduction, and then recommending measures to create defensible space and reduce structure ignitability in event of a wildfire. I wanted to throw in a little bit of a definition of what defensible space was so that as we talk about it, people know what we're talking about. Basically, it is a buffer created between buildings on your property and flammable vegetation that surrounds it. It's also important for the protection of firefighters and resources defending your home in event of a wildfire. And defensible space is one of the single most essential things that will improve the chance of your home surviving a wildfire. These are all the elements of a CWPP, and some of the next slides that we go through are going to break down what's involved so that everyone knows the process of creating it and some of the information that we'll be collecting and looking to collect through your input. An executive summary provides a summary of assessment findings by addressing the collaborative efforts involved in creating the plan, clarifying protection of life, property, and critical infrastructure through prioritized fuel reduction, and addresses hazardous fuel findings and mitigation measures needed. Collaboration includes local, state, and federal government agencies and tribal agencies, community members, groups, and interested parties, and emergency services, including local volunteer fire departments. The community profile basically defines the boundaries for the CWPP and gives a geographic location and description. It provides population census information, a breakdown of homes, community buildings, businesses, industry, infrastructure, and cultural values, and then also includes cultural sites, natural resource values, and notable hazards. The emergency preparedness part of the plan addresses government agencies responsible for fire suppression, resources available, and approximate response times. Access issues, which is one of the things that we'll be specifically looking at with the unique situation that a lot of areas in the Lake Louise and Crosswind Lake properties fall in. Escape routes and egress in event of evacuation, and safety zone locations where people can gather if their property is threatened by wildfire and receive updated information on the situation. I'm going to pause for just a second and check in with our online aspect of the meeting and see if there's any comments. Okay, everything looks good so far? Okay. All right, good. The community risk assessment part of the CWPP is it's based off of the availability of hazardous fuels, creating a threat to values at risk in a wildfire. It includes looking at satellite imagery, vegetation, and fuel classification maps of an area, including neighborhoods, road access, infrastructure, and analyzing the risks that adjacent fuels may cause if ignited. It includes community input on concerns and preparedness. And when we have our second CWPP meeting for this area, one of the things, the main topics of the second meeting is going to be findings for the community risk assessment. The mitigation plan is an outline of goals and priority values to be protected, determined from the risk assessment process. Objectives that describe specific measures that can be taken to lower the risk to the community, and it includes suggested measures that can be applied to both private and public lands. The action plan describes recommendations of projects and actions that meet the goals and objectives of the mitigation plan. Site-specific fuel reduction and fire-wise efforts focusing on creating defensible space and reducing home ignitability. Education and community outreach, empowering the public to be proactive in wildfire prevention and protection, and ways to improve collaboration and effectiveness of local fire suppression resources. We also take a look at the fire history of an area, which includes a summary of past fires in the designated area, which helps generate a greater understanding of the risks and hazards associated with wildfires. And in the end, the declaration of agreement and concurrence involves signatures from all the involved parties, including government agencies, tribal agencies, volunteer fire departments, community groups, and other contributing parties. Potential benefits to the community once a CWPP is established include applying for wildland urban interface grants, which might further support fire-wise programs, which fire-wise programs empower homeowners to create defensible space on their own properties. Shaded fuel breaks if prescribed. Development of biomass utilization programs, which some CWPP areas in our region are looking at. Designated wood debris disposal sites. Funding to support VFD needs, and whatever the community deems practical for addressing wildfire concerns. And just to add a little bit onto that, based off of the unique needs of this area, is in addition to helping people create defensible space and fire-wise their properties, I expect that one of the things that we would hope to accomplish by creating a CWPP in this area is addressing some access issues by looking at remote areas that can't be reached by the road in the summertime. So we'll be looking at potential helicopter landing zones and potentially places that they can be developed, and also potential for caches of supplies that can assist in firefighting in the event of a fire in the area. It could include caches of pumps and hose and structure protection type equipment. So funding for this is made possible through a variety of ways. For one, the Division of Forestry is working with the Bureau of Land Management, the Glen Allen Field Office, as a federal partner of this grant. Going back in history, the National Fire Plan in 2000 and the Healthy Forest Restoration Act of 2003 were created in response to the increasingly intense and devastating wildfires of the last couple decades, particularly in the western United States. Through this legislation, funding is available to address better management of fire-prone ecosystems where people live, commonly referred to as the wildland-urban interface. I provided some links to websites where you can find more information and resources. You can also Google some topics to find out information. For instance, if you Google Alaska Firewise, a plethora of information comes up on Firewise techniques that will basically enable you to take fire protection of your property into your own hands. The forestry.alaska.gov/fire/CWPP website has already established community wildfire protection plans on it that can be viewed. And the forestry.alaska.gov/fire/firewise page also has more Firewise information on it. And you can also Google Forestry Alaska CWPPs or Alaska Forestry Firewise and come up with these pages. Having given a general overview of what's involved in a CWPP plan and creating one, I'm going to see what we have from our online participants as far as questions go. We'll read them aloud and address them. And please, if you have any more input or questions, please feel free to continue to type those in the chat box. Looks like we have 6 people viewing online right now. And are you seeing any questions, Andrew?
There's no coming through.
No questions? Okay, we'll give it just another minute or two. Another note, this video will be saved on this Copper River Firewise YouTube page. So if you know anyone who has property in the area or lives in this protection area, they can view the video at another time. I also want to add, and we'll make sure there's a link available on our Copper River Firewise Facebook page. We have an online survey so far. That's been the most effective way to get input from folks. So we'll repost the link on our Facebook page. It only takes about 5 minutes to complete the survey, and it's a good opportunity for you to provide input or needs in the area where you live. One of the questions that has come up on some of the previous surveys that we've looked at has been concerning the prescribed burning project in the Alphabet Hills. So we'll just go ahead and address that really quick. And as you'll see on the screen, there is information for a contact for Sue Rodman. If you have questions for Googling Fish and Game Alphabet Hills Wildlife Enhancement will also provide a way for you to get information on it. And I'm going to let Nick speak a little bit to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So that project's been, I think, well, not I think, it has been in the works for quite a while. There's been some different roadblocks, but the whole point of this project is to enhance moose habitat. And yes, there will be smoke in the air. The prescription for the prescribed fire is going to be during fire season. However, it will minimally, if not at all, affect any of the state resources that would be normally fighting fire in the region. It's a resource benefit fire. There will be short-term effects, but a long-term benefit to the moose and large ungulate populations in the region. So again, Jenny provided the information to Sue Rodman. She definitely has been spearheading this project and from the beginning, so she would make a good contact if you'd like to get hold of her. And if people were here, we do have some pamphlets, but I think you can get that same information on the websites that Jenny provided there. So if there's any other specific questions, I'm going to try and do my best to answer them.
And we'll stay on just a minute or two longer to see if any other questions pop up or if anyone in the room attending in person has any comments or anything further that they want to add. Anybody else? And did you have anything else you wanted to add, Katie? Or? Okay, well, thank you for taking time on your Friday night to attend the meeting. We hope you found it informational. And at any point, if you have questions or want to be involved in our community wildfire protection plan process, contacting the Division of Forestry, Valdez Copper River area office will be a way to get in touch with us and get involved. And also, we have our Facebook page, Copper River Firewise Facebook page, which is where we'll be posting information and another way to interact with us. So thank you again and have a great night. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I would just like to add, when Andrew swings the camera this way, that these plans, they are in-depth plans, but they are your plans. So any input from the communities you can bring to the table and help develop this plan is going to make it a better, more solid plan for your community and meet your needs. So I encourage everybody to get involved and be supportive of this project and look for the solution to help protect communities in the Copper River Basin. So that's all I had to add. Thank you again for attending, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thanks again. We're going to end the meeting at this time, and we'll be in touch with further updates.